Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is long overdue. We're going to be learning how to make this dress. So you might want to check out the previous video I did on how to make the pattern for this dress. I will link it in the description box below. So this video is going to be all about sewing the dress. So stay tuned and let's get right into it. So for materials needed, you're going to need your fabric. You're going to need pins, your scissors, and your patterns. You're also going to need a basic pencil skirt pattern, but don't worry, I got you guys covered. I have a detailed video on how to make a pencil skirt, so make sure you check that out, and yeah, you're ready to go. Alright, so let's go. You're going to fold your fabric, a piece of fabric, into two, and you're going to place your pattern. So this particular pattern has to be cut on a fold, so make sure you align to the fold, and yeah, just pin it down. And also remember, it's best to fold your fabric right side facing right side, so you will always be cutting on the wrong side of your fabric. So next, I'm going to leave ½ inch on the outer part of my fabric. So this is going to be the joining allowance. So do the same thing for the other patterns. So for this one in particular, you're going to need two pieces, so that's why I'm cutting it on a fold. But yeah, I'm going to cut every part, so it's going to end up being two pieces. So I'm also going to add ½ inch to this side as well, because I'm going to join it to the other piece. So moving on to the back pattern, you're just going to cut it as it is. The pattern already accommodates for the allowance, so just cut it, and you're going to need 2 pieces for the back. Okay, so moving on to the yoke part of the dress, you'll notice I'm using a different fabric. That's the style I'm going for. So just pin it in place and leave half an inch allowance on all the sides. So on the bottom part, on your neckline, and on the shoulder line, you're going to leave half an inch. The only reason I didn't leave half an inch at that other corner was because I already added it into my pattern. So if you haven't done that, you might as well just go ahead and add half an inch on all 4 sides. So I'm going to do the same thing for the back pattern as well, and for the back you're going to have 2 pieces. So what I'm doing here is I'm just going on to cut out my lining piece. So I'm just going to do the same thing I did for my lining. The only place I'm not lining is the other fabric, so the top half of the dress, the yoke part. I'm not lining that part. Alright, so now it's time to join the pieces together. So here I'm just going to join my front piece together. Slow and steady wins the race, remember that. So take this part easy. It can be quite hard to maneuver. Just make sure you take it easy and be patient and pin it in place. So once you're done with that, you're just going to go ahead and sew it down. So remember to sew it down using the half an inch allowance we left for the sewing allowance. So here I'm just transferring my darts for the back of my pattern. I have a video of how I transfer my darts easy. Please take a look at it, watch it, give it a thumbs up. Yeah, and oh yeah, like this video as well. please like this video, subscribe, and give it a thumbs up. Thank you so much. Alright, so here I'm just sewing my dots down and sewing the front part of my dress. I am sewing it all down here. Again, slow and steady wins the race. I know it looks like I'm going fast here, but I'm actually going very slow. So when you're going round that curve, you want to take it easy. Here I'm just sewing my back dots down, and once I'm done with that, I'm going to take it over to my ironing table. Alright, so here what I'm doing is I'm making little cuts. So don't cut your thread line, just cut right before it. And what this does is it allows your fabric, especially at that curve, it allows it to lay flat. And yeah. So do that for both sides, and once you're done with that, you're going to go ahead and iron your fabric and every stitch flat. Ironing is so important when you're sewing. It really makes or breaks your dress and how it looks. I never used to iron. I think I've said this before. I never used to iron, and I would always wonder why my projects looked whack. But yeah, ironing is the way to go. So yeah, I'm also doing the same thing for my lining. So what I did here was that I placed my lining directly on the front piece. So instead of placing it right side, facing right side, and then sewing it, then turning it inside out, no, I didn't do all that. I just placed it directly at the back, and I pinned everything down. So at the other side, I pinned the yoke part down, and I stitched everything down at once using 1/2 inch allowance. So I did the same thing with the 2 back pieces as well. I did the same technique I used on the front. I used it at the back as well and stitched it down by 1/2 inch. Alright, so now to the bottom part of the dress. I have a skirt pattern here, and check out my basic pencil skirt pattern, the video. It's linked down below, and I didn't modify it much. All I did was, instead of the pencil, I didn't want the pencil shape, so I decided to, make it a little bit more A-line. So what I did was I took my hip measurement and I divided that by 4 and added 1 inch to it, and that's what I used for the bottom, and I put in my usual allowance, and that was what I did. So here I'm just cutting the front of the skirt. Remember to cut on a fold. Okay, so now it's time to cut the back of the dress, and at the waist you'll notice that when I put my back pattern, the top pattern for the back, once I put it at the waist, it should all match up, but it doesn't match up. I did the zip bulge on the top, and I am yet to do it at the waist of my skirt, so I'm just going to account for the zip bulge. And how you do that is just go in by 1 inch at the waist and then connect it using a French curve to the rest of the line, like so. So as you can see, once I've done that, I'm going to put in 1 inch allowance from that line. That's to account for my zip allowance. Yes, once I cut it out and I put it back, you'll notice that everything matches up perfectly now. So you would want to do that so you don't have a zip bulge, because your back isn't straight, right? So you want to do that for your skirt as well, so everything flows seamlessly. So once I'm done with that, I'm just going to go ahead, cut my back piece out, and at the end of the day I should have 2 back pieces for the skirt. And here I'm just transferring my darts to my skirt. So you want to do this for the front part of your skirt and also the back part of your skirt. Transfer all darts. Alright, so it's time for the sleeves. You guys, I have a video on how I made the sleeve. It's a basic sleeve block. So I just folded the fabric and I placed my sleeve pattern on that fold. So at the bottom, at the wrist part, I added 1 inch for allowance. This is because I'm adding elastic to the wrist. And at the side, I added 5 inches so the elastic can gather really nicely. So connect everything and cut it out. So you're going to need 2 pieces of your sleeves. So here I just went ahead to notch the middle of my sleeves, and this is something I do to make it easy. So when I'm joining the sleeves to the front part of the dress, it's way easier. So I'm just joining the lining to the skirt, front side facing front side, and I'm going to sew it at the bottom, so at the end of the skirt. That's where I'm going to sew it. That's the only place I'm going to stitch it down. So I have joined the lining also at the back, pin everything down, and here I'm going to sew at the bottom part of the skirt and also at the zip. So now as you can see, I'm just joining the top half of my dress. I'm going to join it to the bottom half of the dress, to the skirt. So I'm just going to join it front side facing front side. For the back, there's one thing you need to account for, because your back is typically shorter than your front, so your front is longer than your back. You want to account for this on your dress, so pin both sides, so both the back sides together. So if this was a one-piece dress, you wouldn't have to bother about that, but because you're joining the top to the skirt, you need to account for this on your dress. So once you're done pinning everything at the middle on your zip side, you're going to go off by 1 inch. And then you're going to take a ruler and you're going to blend it to the other edge, flush it to the other edge of your fabric. So you can now join the back piece together. So join your skirt to your top. So I have joined everything together, and now I'm going to join the whole dress together. So I'm going to place right side facing right side, and I'm going to stitch it at the shoulder. So you're going to be joining it by 1/2 inch at the shoulder. So I've gone ahead to join it together at the shoulder, and I've also serged it down. So I serged my armhole and everything. So now it's time to attach the sleeves to your dress. So I'm just going to pin everything in place and sew it down by 1/2 inch. So here I'm just prepping the back for the zip. And what I did was I just pinned both sides together. So both back sides, I pinned it together. Then measure the length of your zip. My zip was about 50 inches long, and stop about 1 inch from the edge of the zip. Then measure the length of your slit. How long you want your slit to be at the back. You're going to mark it down and mark 1 inch from that first point. Connect both points with a ruler, then go ahead and stitch that down. So sew that on that line down. And then I'm going to fold both sides down by 1 inch allowance. So I'm not going to go into much detail on how I fix a zip on this video. I already have a video showing you how I fix my zip, 2 ways on how to fix zips, so you can always check that out. Give it a thumbs up, please like this video and subscribe to this channel. Thank you so much. But before I go ahead to fix my zip, I'm going to fix the neckline using bias binding. So bias binding is a neater way to finish your necklines. So I'm just going to mark 1/2 inch from the edge of my neckline. So from the back to the front, all the way to the back, because it's all one piece now. So I'm just going to mark 1/2 inch all the way around the edge. So once that's done, I'm going to sew a loose stitch all the way around. So this stitch acts as a guide for pinning and sewing your bias binding. So pin your bias binding on that line. So pin it all the way around your neckline. And then once you're done with that, go ahead and sew it down. So once you're done with that, just fold your bias binding on itself and tuck it in and just pin it down. And once you sew a stitch round, you're done with that. So now I have gone ahead to fix the zip. So we're almost done. Now I'm just making a casing for the sleeves. So I'm just folding it by 1.5 inches, so 1.5 inches, and I'm going to pin that down and sew it all the way down. And then I'm going to thread my elastic through that casing, and yeah, that's it. So once I'm done with that, I'm going to go ahead and join everything together. So I'm going to join the sides together, and once I sew that down, I'm all done with this dress. It was actually quite easy to make. I did have to think about some things, but overall it was easy. So yeah. So that's it, guys. We're all done with this video. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, and leave comments down below on what type of videos you'd like to see. Thank you, and see you in the next video. Bye.